Whenever a small town newspaper in this country closes, it creates a vacuum of information. But I'm going to show you how college students are helping to fill that void. In America's most rural communities, there is often no shortage of beauty to be found. But more and more these days, there is a shortage when it comes to local news coverage. These journalism students at the University of Vermont, though, are trying to change that.
Okay, let's start setting things up this week.
Here's how it works. Nearly everyone in this editorial meeting is being paid by the university through various scholarships.
Interview with her, have a draft done by the end of the week.
They are all considered reporters.
Sort of setting timelines, figuring out our plan of reporting.
Journalism students report for local newspapers across the country, providing valuable, hyper-local community coverage at no cost to the papers benefiting from their stories.
What does it do for that organization, that maybe is kind of teetering a little bit?
It's everything, because in some cases, a lot of these that we work with, a lot of these are community newspapers that have one reporter maybe and an editor.
Richard Watts is the director of the Center for Community News, which launched last year.
What kind of need are these students filling? Are these journalists filling?
Yeah, it's enormous. And there's just a crisis, absolute crisis in local news. And the systems have evaporated. There's now almost 100 million Americans who have no local news source.
In the last 15 years, an estimated 360 newspapers have shut down across the country. But in the last 12 months, the Center for Community News has found more than 120 partnerships between local media and colleges. Many are bolstering news in rural areas where larger media companies have pulled the plug on local news organizations.
So I think people are willing to open up a little bit more to smaller news.
Aubrey Weaver is a college junior from Colorado who is covering hyper-local politics here in Vermont.
What's it like just being out in these communities and really getting to kind of, travel and cover these, maybe smaller cities and towns?
Yeah, well, it's such an immersive experience. Like, I'm not being from Vermont, it's just been totally eye-opening to see kind of a different way of life.
At 19 years old, Weaver is hoping to connect with the next generation of news consumers.
What do you think you guys are bringing to the table?
We have a different perspective to bring to news in general about kind of what younger people want to see and what younger people are thinking about.
For the most part, people want to know what's happening where they live, right?
Thomas Renner is the deputy mayor of Winooski, Vermont, a city of 8,300.
Do you kind of consider it a news desert? Is this a place where it's hard to find news about what's going on in town?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a traditional local paper at all.
Nearby Burlington, Vermont gets plenty of news coverage, but Winooski's local issues often get overlooked. Now, though, they have Winooski News, an online reporting service that was born through the University of Vermont partnership.
I think that it reminds people that their neighbors are facing the same issues that they're facing. It reminds them that they have more in common than they think that they do.
All of this comes at a time when just 7% of Americans say they have a great deal of trust and confidence in the media. Bolstering hyper-local content, experts say, is a way to combat that mistrust.
Everything seems so national when it comes to the coverage that they're getting. So the gap this fills, I really think, is a local focus and kind of bringing people back to their communities.
When there's local news, people are more likely to engage in their community.
This week.
Going forward, the Center for Community News' goal is to secure more funding and provide more staff to smaller newspapers that may be teetering on the edge nationwide.
These folks are bringing their young eyes, to this whole landscape and thinking about the types of stories that they think need to be written about.
All in hopes of making sure the news coverage of America's rural communities is as robust as the beauty of the landscapes here. Chris Conti, Scripps News, Burlington, Vermont.